In this video, I'll take you on the most detailed review of the brand new Japan Airlines A350 first class product. We'll start with the also brand new dedicated and private check-in area, the lounge, the shoe shine, the brand new suites, great food and more. It's going to be a long video, so let's get into it. The journey begins in the massive check-in hall, and while first class used to check in here, that's now relegated to One World Emeralds. Japan Airlines first class only, so not their One World partners in first class, are now directed to this new area. There is a private sitting area while they take your passport, check your bags, and come back with your boarding pass. Then you're through to the dedicated first class security. Considering JAL don't actually have that many first class seats, this is going to be an exclusive and very efficient way to get through security. After a short walk, we're up the escalators to the JAL first class lounge. This is open to first class passengers, but also One World Emeralds and first class passengers with other One World airlines, so it's understandably much bigger and busier. It's a very interesting and diverse lounge, with 4 distinctive and separate sections that we'll explore in more detail. After you travel down this corridor, you open into a section called the table. This is often the busiest and least attractive section, as it kinda looks like a large diner or canteen. Having said that though, there's a large selection of self-serve drinks, including wine, beer and spirits, and a small amount of food ready to take away. But the majority of the food now is ordered via QR codes and then delivered to your table, which is really efficient and great for gualos like me to see a photo of what I'm ordering. There is a bit of a view of the airport apron, although it's partially obstructed, and I'll show you a much better view later. The next section is the Red Suite, which is a bizarre but also like a brilliant, quiet nightclub or bar. It has a huge amount of aircraft and travel memorabilia, including this model Japan Airlines Boeing 2707 supersonic passenger transporter, which was planned several decades ago but eventually cancelled. This would have been America's version of the Concorde. There's more models and even an instrument display from an Airbus A300, and it's interesting looking behind it as the dials and mechanisms are all much longer than you would have expected. There's a football table, although the noise would have been out of character with the rest of this quiet lounge, and a champagne bar. But best of all, there's a free shoe shine service which made my RM Williams look almost like new. They took around 15 minutes and gave me this fetching pair of slippers, which you can see me wearing here in the left. I really like this section, but it's missing a view of the airport apron, so let's keep moving. Next, it was back along the corridor again to check out the shower. You can book these electronically via the QR code or just ask the staff. They seemed perfectly adequate, and there were plenty of them, with me getting the keys to shower suite number 11. These are an invaluable way of freshening up on a long layover, and I'll be looking forward to one when I return to Tokyo next week for a 3-hour layover before heading back to Sydney. There were also several separate cloak rooms where you can leave larger carry-on luggage, and also different rooms for people to talk on their phone. It's a really pleasant part of Japanese culture where talking loudly in public is frowned upon, so people are politely asked to talk about the stock market, business goals and spreadsheets in these noise-insulated areas. Next, we're upstairs, and there's also a lift to check out the Salon, which has many more chairs and tables, and was very quiet on the 2 occasions I visited. It seems that most people only really explore the table section downstairs that you saw earlier. This area focuses on serving Japanese artisanal drinks including whiskey, cocktails, sake and tea. It was around 7 AM, so I had a cup of coffee, which for some reason is associated with the new Airbus A350. I did get a giggle though when I was reading the backstory at the end of the paragraph when they forgot to edit out the translating reference. I used the QR code and ordered a pork fillet parade W with bacon, sushi vegetable rolls and what I think was tuna. I didn't want to spoil my appetite for the food on board, so I just had a small snack. There were these cool wet towel dispensers which I've never seen before. Next to this section there were free massage chairs which I've never seemed to be able to get to work, so I went plain spotty elsewhere. And finally, and back down on the same floor as the rest of the lounge, is the Sushi Tsurutei, which is like a sushi restaurant. Like the Salon upstairs, this is only open during peak times. I find these sections all vastly different from the fairly uninspiring table section, and definitely worth visiting if you have a long layover. Now if you want to get on board, skip ahead with the timestamps below, because I'm going to spend a few minutes geeking because the view from the Cathay Pacific Lounge was amazing. Until the Airbus A350 arrived, the JAL flagship aircraft was the Boeing 777, which you see here. It's a solid workhorse, flying with JAL since 1996, and these were the first large jets that proved that you only needed 2 engines. Prior to this, most big jets had either 3 or 4 engines. JAL currently have ordered 18 shorter Airbus A350-900s and have been flying those since 2019, and these run domestic routes around Japan, and I saw a whole lot of them coming into land during my breakfast. There was even 4 go-arounds without a clear cause, so maybe wind shear, including this Lufthansa A350. Another interesting avgeekery thing was seeing so many Boeing 767s, which were the 777's smaller brother. These were fairly old now and being phased out. In fact, there's only a small number remaining in North America, and both BA and Qantas have retired their large 767 fleet. In addition to the new Airbus, JAL's modern fleet includes the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, with both the shorter Dash 8 and the longer Dash 9. Boeing have copped a lot of criticism in recent years, and rightly so, but the Dreamliner has been a huge success and very safe with not a single hull loss, although there have been a few recent concerns about the build quality. And here's our ride for today, the Airbus A350-1000, which is longer than the aforementioned 900 brother, and only a few centimeters shorter than the Boeing 777-300 it will eventually replace. JAL have ordered 13 of these, although only 4 have arrived so far, and this was the first Airbus aircraft made from carbon fibre reinforced polymers. By having less metal affected by rust, it allows the cabin to remain more humid, thus having less of a drying effect on the passengers. It also comes exclusively with new Rolls-Royce Trent turbofans. Now I filmed all of this avgeekery from the Cathay Lounge, but I discovered afterwards that JAL have a Secura Skyview lounge, the floor below, with an equally brilliant view. Okay, let's head to the gate and check out the onboard experience, which I was really excited about. Boarding started on time, and in quite a nice touch, the crew were clearly expecting me, as you can see them mention my name as soon as I entered. I was promptly escorted through the forward section of the business cabin, which I'll be reviewing next week, and then into first class, which is in a 1-1-1 layout with a total of 6 seats. You can see how much wider the first class seats are when you look straight ahead and see my suite narrowing the aisle, especially in comparison to the business seats.
Thank you, very nice.
And here it is, and it's brilliant. It's really difficult to explain the size of this, and it's no surprise that it's actually allowed to seat 3 people during the flight. I'll show you around its many features, starting with the personal wardrobe and mirror. Under that is the shoe holder, and you can see mine are a little large, but fit with some pressure. There's more enclosed storage space here for smaller items, like my camera gear, and the larger one is where the fold-out table is stored, which you'll see later. Next is a ledge, and while mine was broken, here's a functional storage spot in another seat, which I filmed beforehand. Above that is where all of the reading material, including the instructions for the Wi-Fi, are stored, and then in front of you is the incredible 43-inch TV screen, which is not a touchscreen. Below is a massive footrest, which you'll see my seat line up with, forming a long and wide bed, and you'll see there's also a seat belt so another person can sit here. There's no overhead storage bins, which they say is to give the cabin an airy feel, but to me, and I know many airlines are saying this, I'd rather just have more storage. It's a plane, not a palace. Instead, the primary storage spot is under here in front of you, and while it is large, you can't really access it when the table is out. It would also be tough to reach if the bed is in the flatten mode as well. Here's the seat in all of its glory, and there's a smaller chair on the side which can fold down into a table. This is also electrically operated by separate buttons on that side, and you'll see the whole thing go flat shortly. Here's a view of the whole seat, and I'm an average size, yet even the main chair is much wider than what I need. Here's me sitting in the small seat when the bed is made up, if for some reason you wanted to do that. There are power plugs, both USB-A and C, and even a wireless phone charging pad, and these are located on both sides of the seat and at the front as well. It's really well set up to get some work done. Unfortunately, there's no individual overhead air vents, although the cabin temperature was fine during this flight. I do often find JAL cabins to be too warm, but that wasn't an issue this time. A glass of champagne was brought around, and this was not the Salon, as that comes out after takeoff. This was the backup, Champagne Draper Les Grandes Cendres, which I'm sure I pronounced wrong, from 2012. Here's the amenity kit by Zero Halliburton, which was okay but not as well stocked or feels as nice as the Emirates kit, but still much nicer than the children's pencil case you get in Qantas First Class. They also provide a separate skincare essentials kit with more stuff I don't understand, but probably really need. There are really nice Bang & Olufsen noise cancelling headphones that worked well, although the audio was very quiet for some reason. Even at max volume, it was a stretch, and none of the movies had English subtitles. There's buttons here on the left for the seat control, and they're all self-explanatory, and on the opposite side you'll see buttons for the smaller seat. Above those are movable screens to adjust, well, everything in the suite. You can adjust the seat, the windows, lights, and the in-flight entertainment. I found it fairly clunky to adjust the big screen by using directional touches on here, although I guess that's a price of having such an otherwise brilliant and huge screen. Here I am playing around with the seats, and there's a few preset one-touch options, with one being the relaxing lounging option. The Singapore suite, for comparison's sake, is large, but they haven't really used the space that well, with a fairly narrow chair and a separate narrow bed, and then all this empty space around it. This option makes for a huge seat and then a huge bed. Here's what the sliding doors look like once we take off, and the crew can peer through the upper section, but otherwise they're very private. As you can see, the middle seat in row 2 opens onto the other aisle. In fact, here I am jumping over there, looking at both seat 2 Golf in the aisle and 2 Kilo on the window. So this is an option for a couple who may want to see each other. Row 1 is the opposite, with the middle seat 1 Delta opening into the left-sided corridor and visible to 1 Alpha. The boarding was over surprisingly quickly, and we backed out and took off to the runway. They have this high-quality tail cam, which worked a treat, although I filmed out of the window, as you can see here. You're sitting fairly well forward, and the engine sounded quieter than what I'm used to, but alas, it was always a great view of the condensation around the wings and the fan blades. The menu comes in this folder, and it includes an internet voucher, and there's also the food and drink options, and here are the menus. Meals are set up so that there is a 7-ish course lunch immediately, and then a whole lot of a la carte options to eat during the rest of the flight. They do warn you prior to closing the kitchen around 90 minutes before landing to ensure you're full. I went with the Japanese cuisine options during the whole flight. Other than the broken storage spot in the front, the suite felt fairly well put together, and the touch points were all very nice. The burgundy colour is a little 1990s Cadillac, but I didn't mind it. By the way, if you enjoyed these types of videos, then please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. I don't do product placements nor take kickbacks from the airline, so the only way to cover the costs of these flights is via the ads, so please encourage YouTube to share the video by engaging with it. There's 2 toilets up front, so I put on the provided slippers and went to explore them. The one on the left side of the plane is a little larger. There was a small collection of toothbrushes and mouthwash, but otherwise it's pretty standard. Now I haven't seen these before, but they have this little fold out section, so you don't have to put your feet on the floor while getting changed. There's also a seat, which made the whole process of getting changed much easier. Here's those pyjamas, which felt very well made and warm. Being Japanese, it came with a bidet, which was interesting. Under the mirror, there were cloth towels in addition to the paper, which always adds a premium feel. When I returned to my seat, the very attentive flight attendant took my clothes and stored them in the compartment. Arriving in your destination with a fresh pair of clothes really is a nice perk of premium travel. It was around a 11:30 AM departure, so we went straight into the meal service, but after the good champagne arrived. On flights leaving Tokyo, they stock Salon 2013, which, after a quick Google, retails for several $1,000s per bottle. In the past, they've only carried 1 bottle per flight, but I've been informed that now 2 bottles are on board, so I had several generous servings. It tastes, well, like champagne. First up was an appetizer, and I have to apologise that I didn't write down what it was. Or I can blame the Salon for that. I can see an olive and octopus, which was washed down with another glass of the Salon. Next up, we have 5 seasonal delicacies, and I love the intricacies of these meals. Each serving is small, so that it can be really appreciated, not that I understood much of it. First on the left is a hard clam and udu mountain vegetable with truffle sauce. Then working our way clockwise was wagyu beef with myoga, ginger and sesame sauce. Steamed sea urchin and Toyam's jewel shrimp with salted kelp and vinaigrette dashi jelly. Next was a steamed cherry salmon and Chinese yellow chives with vinegared soy sauce. And finally, it was the deep fried smoked tilefish and butterbar stem with thickened soy sauce. It all tasted great, and I have to apologise that I'm really not a foodie, so I can't critique it much more. I do love trying new things, especially when I have no idea what it is, and I'm pretty easy to please. People assume I'm wealthy and sophisticated because I make these videos, but the reality is I just use clever tricks with frequent flyer points, and everything else I'm faking. I really don't have much class at all. Next is the soup service with bamboo shoots, wakame seaweed fish cake, and sanshu buds. And of course, Salon goes well with caviar. Well, that's what I'm told, so I must oblige. One issue I find is that some seats lock you in when the table is out, so you can't stretch your legs. It possibly wasn't too graceful, but there was enough room to squeeze past the table mechanism, and I discovered afterwards that the table can slide further forward. Next was the main with fried rice, including chicken, sake steamed Japanese rockfish with seasoned onions and fava beans. There's also miso soup, sweet pickled spring turnip and simmered kelp, and more champagne. As we flew over the northern Pacific Ocean, with the sun eventually setting behind us, I had some dessert. It was a coconut rawabi mochi with an espresso martini.
Oh, nice.
First class has these dimmable windows, which have replaced the plastic covers, and while they change faster and are darker than those in the 787 Dreamliner, you can still see the sun in direct light, as you can see here from later in the flight. I was able to slide my seat forward to get into the shade again, but this would have been a bigger problem in economy with no option to move your seat. Obviously, you could wear eye shades, but then you wouldn't be able to read or watch TV. Like touchscreens in cars, this sounds like a good idea in practice, but I'm not sure there was really a problem with the old system. The sun continued to set behind us, so I went with a nightcap of Japanese whiskey, which tasted great, and the crew delivered it with some chocolates as well. While I went to the bathroom, the crew attached the supplemental mattress, which came with both a hard and soft option. Now, I'm not a great sleeper on planes generally, but this was really comfortable. I often find that my hips get sore when I lie on my side, but this was soft enough to not be an issue. That small chair, again, made for a great bedside table to store all of my stuff. After a few hours out, I woke up and was keen for a snack, so I went with chicken and omelette skewers and a sanjiton pork cutlet sandwich. This was served with sparkling water and chili. I sat back and enjoyed the sunrise from 37,000 feet, which was a real treat, and got to test out the new Osmo Pocket 3 camera, which works really well in low light, especially when compared to my old GoPro. I jumped around to seat 2 Kilo, which was empty, and enjoyed more views of that winglet and the Rolls-Royce Trent turbofans. Near the Great Lakes, I went with the Fumiko Washoku plate, which included miso grilled butterfish, curried lotus root potato salad, rice and miso soup. This was followed by a fruit plate that was really fresh and tasty. Often airplane fruit is half frozen and not especially fresh, but this was great. As I would be arriving into New York in the morning, I was keen to get caffeinated, so I went with the espresso, which was okay. This was followed by a glass of royal blue tea, Queen of Blue, which comes in a bottle and served in a wine glass. First class passengers get free Wi-Fi, although it's pretty slow. Here's what happens if you try and load a YouTube video. Unfortunately, the in-flight entertainment content is pretty lacking. In fact, I'll be filling up my laptop prior to my return flight soon. I was hoping to stream YouTube instead, but alas I couldn't. They have a rather unique option of headrest mounted speakers, which I suppose might be good for people who don't like headphones, or maybe they hurt their ears. Here's an example of where I'm using my camera instead of my head to give you an idea of the volume, which decreases as you move further forward away from the seat. It certainly wasn't loud or obstructive enough to interrupt other passengers or judging me for what I'm watching. Sadly, all good things must come to an end, and we started our descent down into JFK Airport in New York City. So how was the flight? In short, great, but there were a few issues. The new first class check-in area is really good, although surprisingly not well signed. It certainly had a private airport, an exclusive feel to it. The lounge is very nice, especially if you can find one of the quieter sections, and the food offered is great. The seat itself is brilliant. It's huge, they use space well, and is extremely comfortable and private. I can't say a negative thing about it, and it's one of the comfiest beds I've ever flown in. The service was also really good, as you would expect from Japan Airlines. When we landed, they didn't use the forward doors, so they asked business class passengers to remain seated while the 3 first class passengers were escorted to the door. It was a little awkward, but also a nice perk. I really loved the food. I have no idea what I was eating for most of the time, but the crew explained every plate, and I love the intricacies of Japanese food. There was a Western option, but I'm sure I'll get plenty of that in New York City this week. The drinks were also nice, and while the expensive champagne is lost on me, it's kind of cool to drink what I think was my most expensive drink ever. The TV screen is massive and great quality. I watched a doco in 4K, and watching those fish spit water at bugs the size of my head was amazing. But there's not a lot of content, neither movies, most of which are just superhero ones, or TV shows. For example, they had one random episode of NCIS, Modern Family, post-Clarkson Top Gear, and that was about all I recognised. It's nice that the Wi-Fi was free for first class, but considering this is a brand new aircraft and product, I thought it might have been faster. I was also a little annoyed at having to set up a Panasonic account and enter my personal details and email just to use the free Wi-Fi voucher as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this brand new first class product. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and check out my channel for many more videos. Thanks for watching.